2 is an action game which is based on Japanese history. Being based on history, the stages of the game will also be based on famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan. For example...
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. Well, what if I told you that this was the second game that killed my franchise, and nowhere even close to what the game was? This is actually the sequel to what we're talking about today, Genji Dawn of Blade, a PS3 near launch title that was touted as having realistic depictions of historic battles. Here's a giant enemy crab, Ridge Racer! Nobody remembers this game, and nobody I don't think even played it, sadly leading to this promising series being thrown to the bin with the Getaway and Heavenly Blade, but I don't blame you. I mean, they made a brand new studio at the absolute end of the PlayStation 2's lifecycle and had a sequel released not even a year later. Then we gotta go all the way back to the beginning of it all and see what the first game was like before we can talk about the second game. Dudes and dudettes, this is Genji Dawn of Samurai. You play as Yoshitsune Miyamoto, I'm gonna fuck this name up, Yoshitsune, as he goes on a quest to defeat the evil Hisai clan from destroying the world with their dark magic. You have special stones called a Ahamiganika. Yeah, that thing. You eventually recruit the big monk Pinky, and the two of you go on a quest to get stronger and stop the... I fucking forgot the name that fast, wow, that's crazy. From taking over Kyoto, the story is pretty much ham-fisted, even if you don't want it. You can't skip cutscenes, and most of this game is cutscenes. It actually accounts for half of my 6-hour playtime with just cutscenes, though I don't mind it because it's really damn pretty and reminds me of an old Koei game with the interactions and stuff. I don't want to spoil the real meat and bones of the story because that's the majority of the game, though it's not really that engaging and sometimes it can put you to sleep like there's no music or nothing, but the delivery of everything is so dry. All the gorgeousness of the world cannot stop a boring story. Did I mention that this game is pretty? This honestly might be the prettiest game on the PlayStation 2. That's a large statement, I know, but hear me out. The landscapes, the FMVs, the way that the effects go around the characters, there's some really incredible boss fights that are just jaw-dropping to look at. There were some times where I would just stop and stare and die just looking at what the hell the boss was doing. The movement between attacks, the motions of everything look mocapped and choreographed, even though it's all real-time gameplay. The audio side of things really isn't up to shake for. It's your standard asset libraries of yo and taiko drums and other random generic chill Edo Japan sounds to study to. Gameplay wise, it kind of plays like a mix of Devil May Cry 1 and Devil May Cry 2. That's the closest comparison I can think of. You have fixed camera angles and random demon baddies that appear to be comboed. You get XP for killing enemies without getting hurt, and there's this cool Kamui mechanic that you can use to slow down time and turns the game into like a counter mini game. It's like Arkham Knight and stuff. You press the attack button at the right time and you can combo counter and instant kill enemies. You would think this would get old, but thankfully enemies actually have different patterns and ways of attacking. Sometimes they'll all jump at you at once, sometimes the one that you're expecting to hit you will feint, and someone else will attack from behind. Sometimes enemies are so fast that either you have to be really skilled to get a counter, or later in the game get the ability to slow down time even more to get to these prompts. There was a lot of times that I spent just spamming the Kamui button and fucking up because it always keeps you on your toes. It's really easy to perform and hard to master type of system that always rewards you for skill play with rare items, drops, and extra experience points. You level up, talking about experience points, and that's an arbitrary increase to your damage and health. You can also find these essences that, I suck at words, bro. These increase your stats of your choosing. I mostly dump mine in attack because the greatest defense is a dead enemy. There's also baby equipment and stats and stuff, like the sword will do fire damage, or this earring gives +5 damage and lightning resistance. I noticed a lot of the equipment looted was for Binky, the bigger, slower guy that you can play as, then there wasn't really as much for the main character of the game, strange enough, until the end game. Speaking of Binky, he's exactly what he looks like. A giant, slow dodging, slow hitting, slow blocking, slow talking, just slow. But he does have an interesting tidbit of having 2 weapons with 2 separate movesets. And he also has these cool interactions with the environment, breaking barriers and allowing new ways of traversal. It's so strange to me that how the least fun character to play feels the most rewarding to play than the actual fun and main character of the game. Funny enough that the second game was marketed as having realistic historical battles, cause I definitely remember Yoshitsune fighting a fucking phoenix or super saiyans or giant skeletons and necromancers or Nue. Why did they even say that? Now that I think about it, I don't know what it is, but I feel like this game, as well as its length, was supposed to be both games combined into one. I mean, put this with a grain of salt because I've only played very little of Genji 2, and that was like 15 years ago. This game is really short. Like I said, it only took me 6 hours to beat, not accounting the 3 hours of snoozing that I did through cutscenes. They do give you a New Game Plus option, and that's hinky. I can skip cutscenes now, but that kind of gives it some replayability and actual interest, and I don't really want to go back to play this game. I imagine this game would be really fun in New Game Plus mode, especially increasing your stats even more and maybe seeing some more secrets that you didn't see before. But the game ends off on this hideous cliffhanger ending with all this tease of what could have been, and it could have been an excellent second act of the game. I don't know. Let me not talk about what I don't know. It also be like when I made MMO videos. Overall though, I think this is a really excellent hidden gem for the PlayStation 2. If you play the game, at least play it for the visual. But at the end of the day, it's kind of bogged down by lackluster gameplay, tedious and repetitive combat, and a sequel that released 8 months later. I definitely am going to check out Genji 2 whenever I get a chance. First, I have to find a PlayStation 3 that's not broke and the capacity to give a shit. So, sidebar. That was a quick sidebar. I didn't let it build up. That's always how it goes. Once again, like always, if you like what you saw, if you like what you did, this is a pretty shorter video because it's a pretty shorter game. It's not really much to talk about with this game and not talking about spoilers. I don't like being one of those reviewers that it breaks down the whole story, play by play, and breaks in gameplay and stuff like that, because I want you to play the games if you watch this video, because most of the time if you're looking up this random ass game, you're probably looking for somebody to be objective and talk about the specific things with the game, and then you go on about your day, see a little bit of gameplay, see what they talk about, and then go, okay, cool. I know my XCOM video, I did do that, but that was because I wanted to deep dive into a game that I actually wanted to play for a really long time and it had a really interesting development period. But I would definitely do that for Genji 2 because that's actually the game I wanted to play, but I don't, like I just said, have a PlayStation 3 and the emulators are not keen to cell processing. If you enjoy the content, you can always check me out on the Back of the Rack podcast. I'll link that or put that in the card, or it's going to be on the end screen for you to check out. I have a podcast, if I haven't said that in the last 15 videos. So if you wanted to hear me talk about other games like Genji that are forgotten and Back of the Rack or hidden gems, it's also called Back of the Rack. So check it out on Apple Music Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever the fuck else you listen to podcasts. I don't know. Or you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, boom, boom. All the shit is in the description. Stop asking me stuff, okay? Go to the next video, okay? Okay? Cool.